Arteries of the human body. So you're going to have a couple weeks or a week and a half to get to know these arteries and the veins. So if you're at home, you might not have the diagram printed off. That's okay. If you have a printer, go ahead and print it off. Otherwise, you can just grab a sheet from me when you get back. We're going to go through the arteries of the human body. So letter A here is the aorta. And if you're doing this at home, what I would like you to do is in your notebook, go ahead and write down arteries and then write letter A equals aorta. What we're going to be doing is on one side of our notebook, so on one page we'll have the letters. On the other side we'll have the diagram. So what you can do is just look at one side and see, can you name all of the different ones? And then you can double check by looking at the left-hand side of your notebook to figure out if you guessed correctly. So again, if you're at home, just write letter A equals aorta, and I'll get you the diagram when you get back. So the aorta, remember, that comes out of the heart. It's got all the oxygen-rich blood. B, brachiocephalic. So brachy refers to arm. Cephalic refers to head. So it's kind of in between the arm and the head, but it's the branch off right here. Letter C, carotid artery. This is where you take your pulse. So if you ever see people putting their two fingers along their neck to take their pulse, they're taking their pulse on the carotid artery. D, subclavian. Your clavicle is the bone, your collarbone here. Sometimes people break their clavicle. It's called subclavian because it's underneath your clavicle. So on both sides where your collarbone would be, that's letter D. E, pulmonary. So what we can see here, we've got ribs kind of shown on this side. And on this side, we've got all the blood vessels that go into the lungs. So your lungs would be right here. And the pulmonary artery goes to both lungs. It's just, we can't see it super well. So that's going to be letter E. Anything that has the word pulmonary refers to lung in it. F, brachial. All right, brachy refers to arm. So if you ever hear anything that begins with B-R-A-C-H, it typically refers to arm. G, hepatic. You might have heard of hepatitis. That's inflammation of the liver. Anything that begins with HEP refers to the liver. If you want, what you can do is you can kind of draw an outline of a liver. Remember, it's kind of triangular in shape, if that's going to help you remember, because I know it's kind of hard to see here. There's not really anything attached. Next up, we have H, renal. These are the kidneys. Anything that begins with R-E-N refers to kidneys. And so kidneys are those two bean-shaped organs. Again, if you want to draw two ovals on the outside to kind of represent that that's where the kidneys are to help you remember, go ahead. I, radial. You know about your radius. It's on the thumb side of your arm. So the radial artery is on the thumb side. Your ulna is on the pinky side. So the ulnar artery is on the pinky side. And I think we need to continue. So K here, I got lazy and forgot to color code these. So pretend they're color coded. K is iliac. Anything that starts with I-L-I-A refers to your hip bones. And so iliac arteries are down by your hips. L, femur, your femoral artery. Your femur is that bone in your thigh. M is around your knee. So this is the popliteal artery. And then N, by your tibia, is the tibial artery. So if you're at home, what I would like you to do is go ahead and make another list. You can make it on a different page Remember, you're going to have a diagram that's going to go next to this or on a separate page so you can practice. So veins of the human body. So you can label it veins. We were just looking at arteries. Now we're going to look at veins. They're going to have a lot of the same or similar names. All right, so A. Remember, this is where we had our carotid artery. Well, we call this your jugular vein. If you hear somebody say, oh, I'm going to hit you in the jugular, they mean in the neck. So your jugular vein is letter A. B, subclavian. Hey, that's the same name as the artery. Underneath your clavicle, subclavian. C, brachiocephalic. Hey, that's the same as well, right? Remember, between the arm and the head, brachiocephalic. D is super important. Remember, we had the aorta coming out here? Well, with veins, this is the vena cava. Superior means above. So there's the vena cava that comes up, and then it's going to wrap down. And the inferior vena cava will label a little bit later. Pulmonary vein, that's the same as before. It's going to our lungs. F, here's our inferior vena cava. Okay, so it's not two separate ones. It's the top of the vena cava, that's the superior, and then it wraps down. So basically, anything that's above the heart we call the superior. Below the heart, it's inferior. And so it goes all the way down here. G, brachial, that has the same name. H, hepatic. Again, you can see the liver there. In our other drawing, we didn't have the liver there. I, renal. Remember kidneys, you can draw in two oval-shaped kidneys if you'd like. J is iliac, same as before, the hip, iliac. K is femoral vein, we know that, femoral, like our femur. And then L is tibial. So those are the arteries and veins. We will have a quiz on them in a week and a half or so, and you will need to be able to identify the different arteries and veins given a word bank.